Dallas is always moving. So is life. That's why Northwest Insurance Agency keeps you covered. From home to auto and more, we make insurance simple and stress-free. Stay protected in the city you love. Get a quote today.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let me go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I am Billy Embody, happy to be back once again with Hayden Howerton, and we continue on our spring preview series, and we're powered by our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency, Mark Villasana, hooking it up for those SMU fans who give him a call. Just chat about the Mustangs, chat about your insurance. He wants to make sure you're covered and covered well with insurance. And Hayden, on theponyexpress.com, we dropped our first one. Now we're back again. Do a little running back, linebacker breakdown ahead of spring ball. And that means we are a couple more days closer to spring ball as well, which is very important because we are ready for it as the Mustangs need to get back out there so that we can have more real football to talk about at ontheponyexpress.com. Subscribe for just $1 for your first week and join us over there. We're doing the live chats. Spring ball is around the corner, March 25th. It gets going right after Pro Day, as we said on the last pod. But now this is a group of positions, these running backs and linebackers that we'll talk about, that have gaping holes on both groups to fill. They have candidates, they have players that can certainly step up, but they're both kind of in that similar mold where they have, just huge holes to fill.
This is going to be the X factor on either side of the ball here, is how well can SMU replace who we've lost at both of these position groups. You look at the groups that we had last year where you had Brashard Smith, you had Kobe Wilson, and you had these guys who had a ton of production and really led each of their respective sides of the ball. And it is going to be a really big challenge for Rhett Lashley and the coaching staff to be able to replace guys, whether that's guys that have been here in this program and are on the rise, or that's guys that we went out and got from other schools to plug and play in our system. So we are going to balance our episodes. We're going to have, countering sides of the ball, running back, linebacker, quarterback, safety. But this is going to be a big deal for SMU to have to replace these guys. And Billy, we're trying to get back in the rhythm right now. We're knocking the rust off a little bit like these guys are going to here in a couple weeks. We had our time off. We played our golf, not enough, did all our projects, our honeydews, but now we're back. Now it's football time. So, look, I want to start with this running back group first. There is a lot of room to grow for the guys already in the room because of the gaping hole that's Brashard Smith. Brashard's 1,332 yards on the ground was 57% of our rushing production last year. An All-American season for Brashard, and we could see him be a day 2 NFL draft pick next month after he went out and ran a 4.37 or 4.39 at the combine. Blazing speed for him. We knew he had it with the returns and things like that, but it's not common you see running backs go that fast. So it's great for SMU to have a big-time running back coming out, but now the question for Kyle Cooper is, what next? You look at the guys that are going to be in the room who were here in 2024. You have LJ Johnson Jr., solid backup option after the loss of Jalen Knighton, 300 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns in that reserve role. Kind of was a little bit more of a short yardage / give Brashard a breather. Like we look at that Virginia game where Brashard was banged up a little bit and LJ got a bunch of carries, which was great. Ended up getting out of there with a win and clinching that ACC championship berth. And you also look at Derek McFall, who I think is a little bit opposite of LJ Johnson Jr., really explosive player. He was listed as a wide receiver to start the year. You could see this guy potentially be an every down back because of his ability to, 1, catch balls out of the backfield, and 2, rip off big runs. He had a couple big-time runs as a freshman. You think of the one against Cal, and he had a limited load, 26 carries, only 106 yards on the season, but I really liked what I saw out of him last year. So the other key additions that we have to this running back room, Conroe running back, Jermico Green, All-American, big-bodied running back. He's not enrolled yet. We're going to have to wait until summer to see this guy. But you're also adding Chris Johnson Jr. Have to put our hands up, guys. This is not CJ2K's son, as much as we were hoping to see that out of the backfield. And no disrespect to Chris Johnson Jr., but we just got confused on our part. But look, he's transferring from Miami, and SMU does have a good track record of turning those former Hurricanes into great players for SMU. So I'm excited to see what these returners and key additions are going to be able to do for this unit here when we kick off spring ball in just a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And speaking of fun, we've all had our times at Rusty Taco. I mean, I know that's a grade A staple for any SMU fan, student, what have you. And we love to show them some love because their margaritas, their tacos, all the things are perfect on a day like we're having lately with this weather that ever since daylight savings time, we've got that extra hour at night. The weather's just been pristine so far. And when you go to the Greenville Avenue location of Rusty Taco, you can mention Pony Express, or if you're ordering online, you can type in the code Pony Express for orders at the Greenville location only. We're still working on the rest of them, but you get free corn fritters. So a really, really good excuse to have their tacos, have a margarita, and enjoy, because this new menu that they've got is really good as well. So enjoyed our time stopping by Rusty Taco for a couple of tacos and margaritas, and we'll continue to support them. So check them out. Again, Pony Express is the code for free corn fritters with all your orders, however you get them, in person, online, delivery. It should all work for the Greenville Avenue location. This running back room for Kyle Cooper is really intriguing to me, and it's also a sense of excitement, because let's start with Derek McFall. Saw him as a high school senior in person, doing it all, playing running back, playing wide receiver, playing return man, playing running back as well, and totaling a bunch of yards for a very, very young Tyler team. Then he comes to SMU and he kind of does some of the same stuff, catches the ball well in spring or in fall camp. He's able to really be somebody that you could kind of see the vision for him. And he has that game-breaking ability. And then that run against Cal and some of the short passes he had and turned him into big gains. Like, those are all really exciting things about Derek McFall. And there's a ton of speed that they bring in Chris Johnson Jr. I mean, just elite game-breaking speed. Like, he is, on paper at least, faster than Brashard. But does he have that lateral agility? Does he have that toughness? We're going to be able to find that out in spring. I think this is a position group that, if you got a chance to go out to practice and watch Brashard, you knew he had a little something. It was just a matter of, well, will it work with the lights come on? Like, will this converted wide receiver end up being a good running back, let alone what he ended up doing? And so that is going to be a question that we'll find out probably in the fall, but we'll be able to really see if he's got it in the spring. I mean, these running backs, like, they just have a way about them of being able to break some or make big plays. You could see it when Jalen Knighton was at SMU and he was healthy early on. Like, he broke some big runs in those fall camps and in spring ball. And unfortunately for him, it hadn't really developed. But this is a group that has some excitement, but it's also, like, I think it can go one of two ways, next year. I mean, I think it's either going to be really, really good, and you're going to see Derek McFall, and you're going to see maybe LJ put it together, and then will Jalen Knighton and Kamar Wheaton be available to go and things like that. But, there's also the sense that, oh my gosh, Tramico Green, like, when can you get here, and will you be the savior?
I hope so. You always want to have a running game, and we're going to have one regardless of who's in the backfield because of what Kevin is going to be able to do with his legs. But if Kevin is having to take those shots and he's having to run in the open field and he's having to slide all the time and risk his body, that puts our season at risk if our quarterback is having to take those kinds of hits. You really want to be able to just, in 3rd and 1, here you go, Jermico, or here you go, Derek. Go get that yard and take the one play off of Kevin, because we're going to need Kevin in those later season games, those Clemsons, those Louisvilles, things like that. We cannot have him banged up at that time. So, yes, I think Jermico Green is a guy that could be an all ACC / potential All-American, depending on how he develops and how he plays out at SMU. But we need to have a guy now who is going to be able to have that ability where he can come in the game and he can do it all. And I don't even mind if it's running back by committee. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. If we have a guy who's our short yardage back, our catch it out of the backfield back, our just downhill runner, our speed guy, I'm okay with all of that as long as it's not obvious. As long as LJ's not coming in the game and it's, all right, guys, they're going into goal line because we know that they're just handing it to LJ every time. So we need to be able to stay balanced with our running game as well. And you look at the key losses, and we talked about Brashard Smith. Jalen Knighton, if he is not able to go, that is a big loss for SMU. He had that season-ending knee injury against BYU last year, and we wish him all the best, but it's still uncertain if he's going to be able to come back for SMU in 2025. And you look at this position group, they are coached by Kyle Cooper. This is a guy that has been on the rise in college football coaching. He has produced and recruited some really good players lately. Is he going to be able to do it again with this new batch of running backs? He gets the best out of his guys. I'm just really hoping that he can do it again.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I think him and Coach Foster, Tyler Foster, have done an unbelievable job with this group. You know, they balance each other out really well and just have found out a way to, you know, make sure and when it was a healthy group that, hey, we've got Brashard and he is turning into the bell cow. And that's what happened. And you know, they kind of gave opportunities early in the season and then realized what they had and they went with it. And that's the good thing for this group. Like, you have that opportunity to say, hey, we've been looking for somebody to break out like this, and now they did. We're going to ride them. And I think that's exciting for a player. You know, you want to be in a situation where you're not rotated every 2 plays, or you're, you know, okay, you get the drive here and you can't get into a rhythm. Like, if you're a game breaker like Brashard and you show it, get out there, go deliver us a run game. And the same will go for this group here. I mean, they have all sorts of different options. I'm interested to see how much more comfortable Derek McFall looks this spring. You know, that's the big one, I think, for me, that I want to see him take that next step up, because if he does, that is just one of the biggest storylines of all of spring.
Yeah, I agree. And what you're talking about having balance at running back, I think about 2019 when we had Xavier Jones and K'Mon Freeman. Xavier Jones had that highlight reel run against U of H. He's reverses field, you know, does all that. And then Free against Memphis in that college game day game runs over the safety and is gone. Now, he almost got hawked when he ran out of gas on the 5-yard line. But you had 2 different styles of running back, and both of them worked in that offense that we had, which was led by Coach Lashley at the time. So I don't think there's a problem with having guys who can wear a lot of hats and do a lot of different jobs. So I think this is going to be one of those groups to where, yes, if Derek McFall becomes the guy, and I hope he does, we will have a very explosive run game again for the 2nd year in a row.
And they had Braden West the year before there, you know, and kind of like Derek McFall-ish too. So like Coach Lashley's kind of been able to get a little bit out of all sorts of different types of running backs.
No doubt.
It's going to be interesting to watch. And again, this offense, when you look back at Coach Lashley's kind of run, is been at its best when it's got a run game, you know, and quarterback play has always been strong under Rhett Lashley. I mean, that's something that you really haven't had to figure out. I mean, you can look at all of the guys that have come through this program at various points and say, okay, this guy had this flaw or that flaw, or didn't get it done in this game or that game. But I mean, really, as far as like a floor, you're going to have great quarterback play. And when you get to having a great run game, that's where things get scary.
Yeah, we'll talk about in a future episode the other half of the run game piece. We'll talk about the offensive line and how that's going to play into it as well. Do want to talk about the other side of the ball here in this key matchup for SMU. I want to talk about the linebackers. The pressure is going to be on SMU's linebackers for obvious reasons. One, you're replacing Kobe Wilson, and you're replacing Ahmad Walker. Both guys basically started the whole year, big gaping holes to fill. But you also pair that with the fact that SMU lost a lot on their defensive line as well. Now we're going to need a breakout year from this linebacking core to cover the new defensive line until they can get rolling and they can get in a rhythm. Because typically in defense, we've all heard the phrase 10 guys are wrong, one guy can make them right. But this linebacking core is going to have to be constantly right. And they're going to have to, as linebackers always do, make sure everyone's alignment is right. Make sure that the guys know the assignment, they know the coverage. The age of neck roll linebackers is over. Linebackers now play a huge role in coverage nowadays in college football. But for SMU to continue to have a top 5 rush defense, these guys are going to have to bring the hammer as well. So I look at the returners that we're bringing back. You bring back Alex Kilgore, hybrid player. He can rush the passer. He can play out in the open field. He's only going to be a true junior in 2025. He plays like a much more experienced player after coming from District 6A 19, Katy Pato, one of the best districts in the state. But 56 tackles last year. He had 9 and a pass broken up against Pitt in that defensive gem last year against the previously unbeaten Pitt Panthers. You're bringing back a guy that I like watching him play, Brandon Miazuno. Special teamer mostly, but he did make a nice contribution before being limited by an injury during the Duke game. And he showed up in the college football playoff. He had 4 tackles for us in that Penn State game when we needed him. Young player, guy that came in, made some plays when we needed it. And you're also adding a big-time American Conference player, Zachy Barker, second team All-AAC in 2024, 86 tackles last season for the Pirates. I could see him as a guy that wears the green dot for us on defense, a guy that is going to lead everyone else around him, get everyone on the same page, and just have the I'm that dog mentality. You're also adding, and this guy's listed as a linebacker. He's more of a defensive end type body. Kansas transfer DJ Warner. I do see him as more of a pass rusher. He saw time in all 12 games for the Jayhawks. He only had 2 tackles, but maybe he's a third down type player for us where he just comes in and rushes the passer this season. You're also adding freshman Kyle Firm from Glendora, California, and he's early enrolled as well so far this year. So I think the pieces are there, Billy. I think there's options for us at linebacker, and I think that there's ability in the room to do what we need to do. It's just how quickly can they get up to that speed that Kobe Wilson and Ahmad Walker were playing at last year.
Yeah, and that is just the reason why Maurice Crum is co-DC. I mean, he's got to answer that question as the position coach. It's not fun to have to do that with 2 leaders, 2 productive players in Kobe Wilson and Ahmad Walker head out the door. And, SMU has tried to address the position. This is probably one of those positions that if they don't feel great about it coming out of the spring, I could see them maybe dipping in the portal a little bit, but that's a post-spring conversation because right now they went out and with Barker coming from ECU, a very smart player. He had an injury, I believe, like his freshman year that he didn't play at all. He redshirted, got healthy, kind of emerged that next year, and then was making some noise. And then this past year in 2024 really, really was good for ECU and was able to be one of the leaders of that defense. And I mean, he's from Georgia. He's 5'11-ish, maybe 6 foot. I mean, he's the exact kind of clone as far as what you're bringing in as they kind of hope, at least, he could be a clone of like a Kobe Wilson and Ahmad Walker. And just like Alex Kilgore has 2 years left. So the goal is that those guys step into these starting roles and fill them very, very well, and that they feel very good about it. But, this is a big spring for guys like Brandon Booker, guys like Zach Smith, who, came into the program last year's 2024 signees. Zach's kind of undersized, but Book is like, comes from DeSoto, has really been somebody who athletically, he didn't redshirt. I mean, they played him on special teams, and he looked like somebody that they have a lot of confidence in long term. And so it's a big chance for him. They brought in Kyle Firm. They have Justin Medlock back. They have all of these different competitive, depth guys and guys that are trying to make a name for themselves at the same time that they're trying to work in, and they're trying to make it happen. So it's going to be a really interesting spring, and we'll talk a little bit more about it in just a moment. But I do want to tell you guys about our friend Andy Ludicky at My Perfect Franchise, myperfectfranchise.net. If you are looking to get into the franchise ownership business, Andy Ludicky can help you with that. He's a franchise owner and a franchise consultant, and he will hook you up and really help you figure out what is best for you when it comes to franchise ownership. And he is a franchise owner himself who's worked on dumpster companies and all sorts of different brick and mortar types of businesses. And when you do talk with him, and if you do agree to buy a franchise, thanks to his help, he will donate some money to SMU's NIL collective. So all the more reason to call him 404-973-9901 or email him Andy, ANDY at myperfectfranchise.net. He's also friends with the Uter family, two SMU football players, Miles and Graham Uter. They all live down there in Alabama, family. So good family friends. So Andy's looking forward to catching some SMU football games this fall as well. So appreciate their support of the On the Pony Express podcast. As we get back to the linebackers now, this is a position that is probably a little easier to kind of see what you've got than running back, I think, because you have these opportunities to fill holes. You have these opportunities to maybe make that pop. I'm kind of hoping and thinking that maybe SMU might have a little bit more of a physical spring ball because they waited as long as they did to run it. They're going to go 4 straight weeks. They're going to get some work done, and then they're going to get out of there. Now, you're going to want to keep everybody healthy, but this is a group that you've got to find out what you have, and this is the only time to do that when you can actively say, all right, we like what we have, but we maybe need one more piece here.
When you're going to open camp, I don't know what the exact date is. Call it July 25th or something like that. And you're essentially 35 days out from the first game. That is way too close to be risking your best players. And so I always hated it as a player when we're like, oh my God, we're going live in spring. But it really is where you develop, and it really is how you get better. Because look, as guys who are coming back, and you are going to have guys with years of experience and that have played a lot of football and are going to be in the mix, they're going to be going against guys who have not played a lot of football for SMU and who are going to now get first team reps instead of being on the other field on scout team. Big opportunity for this linebacker core. And I think their keys to what is a great spring and summer is a couple things. Find guys who are going to make their way around the football consistently. Tackling, coverage, trying to strip the ball, interceptions, whatever. Slip blocks effectively, and that was one of the things that I would give props to Delano Robinson. He was really good at flipping blocks when I was still playing. And finally, be able to stop the run. Like we talked about, that was the bread and butter for SMU's defense last year. They were able to stop the run extremely effectively. They turned teams into one-dimensional football teams, and we had great secondary to back it up. So I think Maurice Crum Jr. is going to be able to find guys, and he's the co-DC for a reason. Scott Simons trusts him equally with what he's already doing in the safety group to just run that same intensity down at the linebacker group. And guess what? He produced 2 dogs in Kobe Wilson and Ahmad Walker last year. When Kobe Wilson transferred in from Temple, I don't think anybody anticipated him being an all-ACC type player when he went out and had 15 tackles in the ACC championship. Kobe also had that beastquake of a return versus Florida State, where me and everyone else on the sideline were jumping up and down in the ACC opener. I mean, that was a great time. He was snowed by the Shrine Bowl, in my opinion. I hope to see Kobe have NFL success. You pair that with Ahmad Walker, who started every game, had 92 tackles, third on the team, 8 TFLs, an interception, 4 PBUs, and then double-digit tackles for him against Penn State. Big job for Maurice Crum Jr., but I like the pieces that they've brought in. I like Barker coming over from East Carolina. I kind of like the thought process from Lashley of, hey, let me bring a guy up that had big-time success in the AAC and plug him in the same way we did with Kobe Wilson. I like this group, but it's going to be scary for the first couple practices when we're watching these guys without the 2 big holes of Kobe and Ahmad.
Yeah, it's going to be weird not having Kobe Wilson out there running, camping with Kobe, either in fall camp, the little series they did. And Ahmad is just awesome, young man to get to know over the last few years in particular. Kobe was kind of late, so we didn't get to know him that first spring, and then he emerged, during that 2023 season. But, both those guys are just awesome. If the league doesn't pan out, I think both of those guys would be unbelievable coaches. Like you could just kind of see it written all over them. They kind of remind me a little bit of Randall Joyner in a way. So Just really sharp guys who have bright futures in whatever they do. But to spring, to close out, I think this is, and we're not going to pick breakout players every single episode or whatever, because there are so many position battles and players that can do it. But I got a feeling Brandon Booker's going to bring it this spring, and I don't know if it's enough to grab a starting job or do anything like that. But I could very easily see him and Brandon Villasana being your backups, so to speak, but guys that they trust. And you feel for Brandon Villasana. I mean, he's gotten hurt a couple times over the course of his career because, I mean, he just kind of just plays with his hair on fire a little bit. Like, he returned and had the brace on for his, elbow. I think he made it back by the end of the regular season. Like, he was out there just really, really gutting it out for his team. And those are the type of guys that you need. So, I could see those two guys being the first guys off the bench by the end of spring, and Book having a really breakout type of spring. I mean, the way he's wired is really impressive. And that's what you need out of this linebacker group is you got to have guys who are wired the right way that can diagnose. That's why you're seeing the undersized linebacker kind of make a little bit of a run in the NFL. Guys that can read and react and make the calls and do all those things. Guess what? You can look as pretty as you want and be 6'3", 6'4", but if you can't read, diagnose, and call the plays, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so. No doubt. It's going to be a big challenge for SMU in all groups to replace. Honestly, every group is going to have a hole somewhere to fill. These two are just the ones that stick out the most to me.
Yep. So, look, guys, it's been a fun On the Pony Express podcast. Again, we're presented by our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency. But before we go, I want to have a little put you on a spot here, Hayden. This is the last couple weeks of the off season, so to speak, before we get a brief month, reprieve with spring ball. And then that'll give us like 2 weeks of stuff to talk about. And then we're in the dog days of summer before we know it. And at least we have recruiting. So what shows are you guys watching right now? Do you have any that you've really jumped on?
Yeah. So we're caught up on The Pit, which is on HBO Max. It covers a emergency room in Pittsburgh. It's shot like a documentary, even though it has actors and things like that. But it kind of gives me an inside perspective to my wife's work. She's a nurse. She's not in emergency medicine, but every time something really grosses me out, or I'm like, that's crazy, I look over to her. She's like, yeah, that's just Tuesday for us. It kind of gives me some appreciation for her. But other than that, no, I like Invincible, the Amazon Prime TV show. I've been caught up with that as well. And then, just kind of those two for me.
So I flew back from New Orleans a couple weeks ago and was watching American Rust. I gave that. So Michelle and I have a really interesting TV plan. We really like to watch shows together. Survivor, Amazing Race. We've kind of ditched The Bachelor and Bachelorette, which is fine with me, but we have shows. We just rolled through, second season of Night Agent. We are watching The Paradise on Amazon Prime. That's a really good one. But American Rust, I watched the first episode. It's got Jeff, American Rust, Jeff Daniels, who I love. He's awesome. And then Maura Tierney is really good. Couple other kind of actors, but really, really good storyline that's developing. I've only seen one episode. It might be one show that I might be able to watch and just kind of get through it as, Michelle's out to dinner or something like that. But yeah, we've been watching some of those. But I wanted to just highlight American Rust. Basically, that's why I asked you.
All right, I'll have to check that out. Now, Survivor was awesome back in the day. Hell's Kitchen is one that we watch pretty regularly too. That's a great Gordon Ramsay show. But yeah, just typical off-season stuff, man. Just kind of catching up on all the stuff.
Well, we have Full Swing as well, new season out on Netflix too. So, and I'm pretty sure Bryson's in it, so we got to show some love.
Scotty's Arrest.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my God, that's right. Scotty's Arrest is on there. I haven't watched it yet. I've got to watch it now. So that reminds me, this is a perfect time. Golf season is in full swing. So we've got to watch that and check those out. But yeah, just want to give our listeners a little peek behind the curtain there of what we've got on the TV besides football.
We'll try to take Status Jet to the Masters next year.
Yeah. A couple more sponsors, guys. Come on, keep them coming. Yeah, that'll be. Hey, it's on the books. Let's do it. So, look, we'll have another one of these on the Pony Express Spring Preview podcast on the books here very soon. A couple more days, we'll release another episode. So, looking forward to that with Hayden Howerton and chopping it up a little bit more about what is a huge spring for SMU as they look to reload for 2025 and continue this epic run that they're on for the last 2 seasons now with back-to-back 10-win seasons. So 10-plus win seasons. So for Hayden Howerton, I'm Billy Embody. We'll catch you next time on another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. Hit the website and subscribe for just $1 for your first week. Looking forward to catching up with you guys on the message board. Till next time on the podcast, catch you then.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU_on3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to OnThePonyExpress.com for more coverage.